In this lecture and the couple of following lectures, we introduce several basic continuous time and discrete time signals. Not only do these signals occur frequently, but they also serve a basic building blocks from which we can construct many other signals. Okay, so under these signals we come across in our discussion of linear systems and networks. So literally a signal is a means of conveying some information, but in the context of systems we take the meaning of the signal to collectively indicate the various variables. So the input is signal, input signal, and this is output signal. Also sometimes people call this as variable, input variable. Okay, so this input variable or the input signal which describe the status of the system at any particular point in the system. Okay, inside the system at any particular point in the system it describes, or it describes at any particular point of time. At particular point of time what is the output, or at a particular point in the system what is the status of the system. As far as electrical networks are concerned, the variable or the signals that we deal with are voltages and currents. So when I say signal, then what I essentially mean is it is a voltage signal or a current signal. As I mentioned earlier in one of the previous lecture, the signals give the breath of life. Breath of life to a system. So if there is no signal, then the system is died. The system is dead. Because in the absence of signals, the network or system is completely lifeless, and therefore the analysis of signals and knowledge of various kinds of signals that we come across is very important for us. And when we are dealing with dynamic subsystems and networks, the signals are functions of time. Let us say my signal is x of t, it is varying with respect to time. So it is a function of time. So we would have naturally an infinite variety of such signals possible. Okay, I can have one signal like this, I can have one more signal completely different from the first one, then I can have one signal like this, I may have like this. So I can construct an infinite number of signals which are functions of time. However, a few special kinds of signals are important for us. Okay, we will not study this infinite number of signals, even it is very difficult to study also. So instead of that, what we do is we will consider some special kinds of signals because of their simplicity. First one, and the second point is you can express any signals in terms of these basic signals. So the basic signal has the following property. The first one is simplicity, and the second one is we can decompose any signals in terms of these basic signals. Let us see what are these basic signals in a few minutes. So these are the main two reasons why we are going to study the basic signals. Okay, let us take a composite signal or a general signal like this, then it can be decomposed in terms of these elementary simple signals. And therefore, a study of these simple signals is important for us. And we will first review some of the signals which are familiar to us already. And then I introduce new types of signals which will be found useful in our study. Let's now talk about various types of elementary signals that we are interested in. Okay, the first one is real exponential signal. No, before that, let me give the most basic signal. Anyway, let me come to that real exponential signal, because that one is deduced from this real exponential signal. So when I say exponential, with respect to time, the signal grows like this exponentially. Okay, so let me call this signal x of t, and this is real exponential signal. Okay, there are basically two types of behavior. Before that, what is the mathematical formulation for this? E to the at. Okay, when let us say a equal to some number, let us assume 2 simply. So e to the 2t. When you put a t equal to 0, then you will get 1. When you substitute t equal to 1, then you will get 4. E to the 4 may be somewhere else like this. If you join all the dots, it increases like this exponentially. It is going for negative values of time, it slowly comes, and it reaches 0 when t becomes minus infinity. So therefore it is growing exponential. On the other hand, if a is minus 2, then what happens? It reverses. When t equal to 0, then you will get 1. When t equal to minus 1, then a to the minus 2, then it comes here, it goes like this. It grows like this in the reverse direction. Therefore, this one is called decaying exponential, because when time progresses, the signal decays, reduces. Therefore, this is called decaying exponential. Okay, and this one is called growing exponential. Growing exponential. Therefore, if a is greater than 0, it is growing exponential, and if a is less than 0, then it is decaying exponential. And one can ask, what is the use for this kind of signals from engineering perspective? Okay, and this growing exponential is used in describing many different physical processes. So this growing exponential signal is used to explain some physical processes, including chain reactions in atomic explosions. Right, and complex chemical reactions. These are some typical applications where we can use growing exponential. Okay, and this decaying exponential is a signal that is also used to describe a wide variety of phenomena like radioactive decay, then response of RC circuits, that we will study later on. Response of RC circuits, then damped mechanical systems where we will employ damped mechanical systems where we will use this decaying exponential. Okay, now let us come to the special case of this exponential. In case if a equal to 0, then what happens? See, my signal, exponential signal is e to the at. When a becomes 0, then what happens? X of t is equal to 0 times t. This is e to the 0, this is 1. So, x of t is equal to 1 for all t values. Whether you take t equal to 0 seconds, 1 seconds, 10 seconds or 1 million seconds, does not matter. It is taking a constant value. So, how do you plot the constant value? It looks like this. So, the value is constant always with a amplitude of 1. Okay. So, therefore, when I say x of t equal to 1, it is independent of time. Independent of time. So, nothing further needs to be said about this. Okay. So, the another name for this is called a DC signal, direct current. There is no variation. Okay. If you say alternating current or alternating voltage, then AC voltage, then there is a variation, sinusoidal variation, but here there is no variation. Okay. So nothing further needs to be said about this. Okay. So we will leave it at that point. So like a DC signal, we have an AC signal. Okay. What we mean by that is a sinusoidal signal. This is a second part, and the first one is this one, exponential signal. Yeah, first one is real exponential signals, DC signal, then AC signal, or I can say sinusoidal signal. A general form of sinusoid is x of t is equal to root 2 times a times cos of omega t plus some phase angle theta. The whole AC circuit analysis is based upon signals of this type, because you know the importance of the sinusoids in circuit analysis, because this sinusoid has got a very distinctive property. This distinctive property you may not find, or you may not observe in some other signals. Okay, so there are many distinctive property, but let me point out a few here. The first property is that this is the only periodic signal which retains its shape. Okay, so first one is, it is a periodic signal. Of course, you have square wave periodic signals also, but this is a only periodic signal. It retains its shape, its general shape under the linear operations. It is a only periodic signal. It retains its shape under the linear operations. What we mean by linear operation? You take a cos of omega t plus theta, you put alpha times, and put again beta times, take another cosine signal cos omega t plus theta, and take another gamma times cos omega omega t plus some angle phase angle theta. If you add this all the signals, again it retains its shape. So that's what we mean by linear operation. So addition of two sinusoid waves of the same frequency or subtraction of one sine wave from the another sinusoid of the same frequency, of course, or differentiation of a sinusoid will lead to another sinusoid of the same frequency. Whether you add two sinusoids, you will get another sinusoid. You subtract one sine waveform from another sine waveform, again you will get the another same sine waveform with the same frequency. Integration of a sinusoid will lead to another sinusoid of the same frequency. Whether you differentiate or integrate or add or subtract, the end result is again a sinusoidal signal, a sinusoidal waveform with that of the same frequency. Therefore, under the linear operations of addition, subtraction, differentiation and integration, the sinusoid retains its character. Addition, subtraction, then differentiation and integration. Okay. So all these operations, sinusoid signal retains its character. Once again it is a sinusoidal signal. The same wave shape is retained. So this is a very, very beautiful property of a sinusoidal function. No other function has this property. Okay, so no other periodic function or no other function has got this wonderful property. The result therefore is that if you have a whole system with sinusoidal sources of the same frequency distributed all over, then when a sinusoid current passes through an inductor, it produces a voltage which is a sinusoidal of the same frequency. You have a source with a certain frequency omega and you pass it through an inductor or a capacitor or whatever it is, and it produces some voltage, and that voltage also in sinusoidal nature with sinusoidal of the same frequency. So when a sinusoidal voltage is applied across a capacitor, then it produces a sinusoidal current of the same frequency. Okay. So for example, you consider our power system, okay, electrical network, where we got different sources at the same frequency. We have atomic power station, then thermal power stations, then hydraulic power station, or wind power station. There are we have many sources, or solar power station. In India, all are producing voltages exactly with 50 hertz cycles. Okay, so all currents and voltages ideally in every point of the same and are sinusoidal at the same frequency. If you combine this all through a power gate, no problem, again you will get a sinusoid with exactly 50 hertz. But this property will not hold for any other wave shape. That is the main reason every generators and every source produces the power in terms of sinusoidal. So all currents and voltages really in every point of the system are sinusoidal at the same frequency. If we did not have this wonderful property, then a non-sinusoidal current in an inductor will produce some kind of non-sinusoidal current. So you will have a waveform of the voltage which is completely different, And if we have all these different types of waveforms mingling with each other in a complicated system, then certainly it will drive one to insanity. So you won't be able to analyze because the waveforms are so unpredictable and so complex. Therefore, sinusoid has got a wonderful property. As I said, this is the only periodic signal which has got this kind of property. And we have a phasor notation for this sinusoidal signal, which deal with sinusoidal signals, analysis of systems driven by the sinusoidal signal, like e to the, we will come back in a minute, okay, about the phasor notation of sinusoidal signals. So we know all about this form of the AC circuit analysis, okay, so we will leave it at that point. You will be studying this in detail in your networks and circuit theory, okay. So except some remark at this stage that this is really a very wonderful signal, root of 2 times cos of A times cos of omega t plus some angle, phase angle theta or phi. Then let us talk about exponential signal, I mean complex exponential signal, because I started with a real exponential signal here. The first one is, I said real exponential signal. Then let me talk about complex exponential signal. So the general form of an exponential signal would be x of t is equal to a bar times e to the st, where a is a complex number. When I say complex number, it is in the form of a plus jb, okay, and this parameter s, this also complex. Okay, complex parameter, in general a complex quantity, and this s can be written as sigma plus j omega. I will tell you what we mean by sigma and what we mean by omega. Now mathematically, therefore, when you substitute a value for t, here I have e to the st, you substitute some value, let us say t equal to 1 or 2 or 3, then what will happen, you may have e to the power of 2s, right, and because s is a complex and the coefficient a bar, that also a complex, you get a complex value for this. So it leads complex value. T cannot be complex, after all t is a time, right? How can it be, how can a time be complex? So here t should be real. So therefore a bar times e to the st, and this t is real, s is complex and a bar also complex. So on the whole, what you will get, you will get a complex number, complex value for this. So this is the, therefore a bar times e to the st is a complex signal. That is why this is called a complex signal. Please hold on for a while, then really you will appreciate why this complex signal is very, very important for us. And this makes our life very simple. If you don't have complex exponential, then our life will be horrible, especially for communication engineers. Such a wonderful boon for us, this complex exponential. And it is purely a mathematical tool and nothing related to within practical systems. Okay, whatever you want to design a practical system, that can be designed with the help of complex exponential, but there is no practical implications in there is no practical implication of this e to the a times e to the st. Now let us ask one question: what is the dimension of s? After all, when I say e, I should put some, the power should be some number, then only it has meaning, right? E to the 0 or e to the 1, e to the 2 or e to the 0.5, like that I can write. Therefore, the power part should be a number, right? This all should be a number, right? So, e to the st, where t is a time in seconds. What is the unit of time? Seconds. Okay. So, as I said, you may know from some of your earlier courses that whatever you have a physical equation in which the exponent appears, the argument of the exponent must be a dimensionless quantity. Okay, this all should be, whatever I marked here, this all should be a dimensionless quantity. When I say 0.5 or 2 or 1 or whatever it is, these all are dimensionless quantity. Similarly, to make a meaning for e to the st, the dimension of t is seconds, but what I need is a dimensionless quantity. So, what should be the dimension of s? It should be 1 by second. So, therefore, st is equal to, the dimension of s and t is 1 by seconds times seconds. Seconds and seconds will get cancelled. So, it will lead to dimensionless. Therefore, what is the dimension of st? No dimension. So, what is the dimension of s? 1 by s, 1 by seconds. Okay. So, st must be dimensionless. Similarly, you have sin omega t, and this omega t must be dimensionless. Therefore, st must be dimensionless. Otherwise, you cannot match the dimensions on both sides of the equation. Suppose if st has different dimensions, had a dimension of, let's say, m and l. I don't know what is m and what is l. Let us just leave it. Okay. Then you expand this e to the st, that is 1 plus st plus st the whole square divided by 2 factorial plus st the whole cube divided by 3 factorial, and so on and so forth. So, what is the dimension on the right hand side? This has m and l, this guy has m square and l square, and this has m cube and l cube, and so on and so forth. So, because of these reasons, the exponent st must be dimensionless. If this is dimensionless, then the dimension of s must be something per second, because already we know t is time and the time is measured in seconds. Therefore, in order to get this quantity, a dimensionless quantity, then s must be 1 by seconds. Therefore, I will get a dimensionless quantity. Now, what is the quantity which is something per second? It is called frequency. So, the frequency is measured 1 per second, number of cycles per second, number of oscillations per second. Therefore, whenever you have 1 over s, 1 by seconds, it dimensionally says that it is going to be frequency. Therefore, we term this quantity s as frequency. What type of frequency? Since it is complex, as I said, s is a complex number, right? So, since it is a complex number, s is called, instead of calling simply frequency, let me call complex frequency. This all are mathematics. You cannot generate complex frequency in the lab. Please remember, please hold on for a while. I will give the physical meaning for that. Right now, let us assume that this is the complex frequency. Okay, therefore, we term this s as a frequency, and because it is in general complex, we call this a complex frequency. It is not a frequency in the sense that something is repetitive in character. When I say 50 hertz, then number of oscillations in 1 second is 50 oscillations. So, it has some physical meaning, right, like number of cycles, like 50 oscillations per second. But when I say complex frequency, what is the meaning? So I cannot say something. Okay, so this is not a repetitive nature. This is a repetitive nature. And this is not repetitive in nature. Okay, and why is called complex frequency? Because its unit is, its dimension is something per second, therefore it is called a complex frequency. Therefore x of t is equal to a bar times e to the st. This is the most general kind of exponential signal. Okay, and it is going to yield a complex value for x of t, and as I said, it has no physical meaning and you cannot even generate in the lab also. When I say complex frequency, you cannot physically interpret it, you cannot physically see it, and you cannot use it practically. There is no use at all for practical purpose. Then naturally one can ask a question, what is the use for this? What is the use of this complex representation or complex signal? Okay, so what is the use? That is a question one should ask. It turns out that whenever we have to deal with real signals, not only signals, equations, recall from your mathematics, equations. Okay, so any complex signals of this type will always be matched by its mate, his friend. Who is his friend? Complex conjugate, such that sum of this guy and his friend will always yield a real signal or a real equation. So before I enter into this concept, let me give one known example which you already know right from your schools like 8th standard or 9th standard onwards. Let's say I have an equation x squared plus 5x plus 3. I think already I have given this example. Let me one more time I give. So this is an equation, quadratic, simple quadratic equation. Now what is the solution of this? If I add two values, then that should lead to 5, and multiplication that should lead 3. So the solution is minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. A value is 1, b is equal to 5, and c is equal to 3. ax squared plus bx plus c. Then minus b minus 5 plus or minus square root of b squared, that is 25. B square, okay, then 4ac, 4 times ac, right? So 4, a is 1, 4 times 1, 4, and c is 12, right, divided by 2 times a, 2. 25 minus, is that right? Let me take on the other hand because it is not giving what I want. Let me simply change the equation. Let's say this is 5 and this is 3x. Now b is equal to 3, then c is equal to 5. Okay, now minus b minus 3 plus or minus square root of b squared, that is 9 minus 4ac, 4 times a times c, 20, divided by 2a, it is simply 2, minus 3 plus or minus square root of minus 11 by 2. So this is minus 3 plus or minus j times 11 by 2. Okay, so what is the solution for this equation? The solution is minus 3 plus j times root of 11 by 2 minus 3 minus j times root of 11 by 2 and here also by 2. Now here you have plus and here you have minus, and look at the coefficient. This is real and this is real and this is real. The coefficients are real, but the solutions are imaginary, complex. And the beauty is, for a real equation, real coefficient quadratic equation, you are getting a complex answer, okay, complex solution. But this complex solution will not come as a single number. See, I am not getting minus 3 by 2 plus j into root of 11 alone. Whenever I get this kind of solutions, I always get his mate, his friend. Who is his friend? Minus 3 by 2 minus j times root of 11 by 2. So the complex numbers always occurs in pair. Okay, forget about the signal for the time being, complex exponential signal, forget about for your time being. You take a quadratic equation in which it contains all the coefficients are real. Then if you try to solve it, you will get a solution like this, and the solutions contains, two complex numbers which are conjugate of each other. Therefore, the complex number will not come alone. It always comes with his friends. Okay, his friend is conjugate of that guy itself. For example, suppose if a bar is a complex number, let's say this complex number is, its magnitude part is a and its phase part is e to the j phi, and who is his friend? His friend is complex conjugate. So a times e to the j phi, you take conjugate. It is a magnitude, by the way, this one is magnitude. Magnitude means it's a real number. Therefore, a conjugate e to the j phi conjugate. This is a conjugate is the same as a because it's a real number, and this is e to the minus j phi. Therefore, when I say a is a complex number of the form a to the a times e to the j phi, then his mate is a complex conjugate, his friend is. So these two guys always come together. This will not occur alone. So this is a times e to the minus j phi. Similarly, in the beginning of the lecture itself, I said S is a complex number of the form sigma plus j omega. When S is of the form, then it will not come as it is. His friend also will come together because this complex number occurs in pair, and that pair is complex conjugate. Therefore, S conjugate is equal to sigma minus j omega. Therefore, your complex exponential is of the form a times e to the j phi plus e to the st is sigma minus j omega multiplied by time. So this is the general complex signal. And since this x of t is a complex, what about his friend? His friend is the complex conjugate of this guy, because these two guys always form a pair. For a real signal, you will have a pair of you will have a complex conjugate of two signals. Any real signal can be broken up in like this. Okay, so that is going to be e to the minus j phi plus e to the sigma minus j omega t times t. Now, if you combine these two guys, you will get a beautiful thing that we will see in a while. Okay, and let's say equation 1 and let's say this equation 2. Equation 1 will always be matched by its counterpart. Okay, this is the counterpart of equation 1. Equation 2 is the counterpart of equation 1. It always occurs in pairs. Okay, the coefficients are conjugated. Here only I have only one coefficient, so coefficient is conjugated. Likewise, the complex frequency also conjugated. Okay, so I started with a bar, it is a complex number, e to the st. Then I slowly replaced this complex number by a times its magnitude part, a times e to the j phi, and s we said s is equal to sigma plus j omega, then e to the sigma plus j omega times t. Its counterpart is a times e to the minus j phi, e to the sigma minus j omega times t. Now combine these two guys together. Okay, so you just add it, a times e to the j phi, e to the j times sigma plus j, no sorry, j will not come here, sigma plus j omega times t, plus a times e to the minus j phi, e to the sigma minus j omega t times t. Right? So how do you combine these two guys now? A is constant, you can take it out, fine. Then what is the next thing that we can do? Expand this, e to the j phi, e to the sigma t, e to the j omega t, right? And here e to the minus j phi, e to the sigma t, e to the minus j omega t, right? So this is equal to now again e to the sigma t and e to the sigma t is common, so I can take out of the expression a times e to the sigma t a times e to the sigma t. Inside I left with these two terms, so e to the j times omega t plus phi. Here I left with these two terms, e to the minus j times omega t plus phi. Now look at the beauty of these two guys. This is like e to the j theta plus e to the minus j theta. What is this? This is equal to 2 times cos theta. So similarly this becomes a times e to the minus, is it minus or plus? It's plus, e to the sigma t 2 times cos of omega t plus phi. Therefore 2a times e to the sigma t cos omega t plus. So whenever you have a complex exponential, from that complex exponential you can deduce a real signal. What is this? Let me call this signal is some name, let me give y of t. This signal is real signal, and this real signal you can always generate in the lab using an oscillator. Probably you will be studying this type of oscillators in this semester or in the next semester. Like there are different types of oscillators. By using that you can generate a pure sinusoidal waveform, like Colpitz's oscillator, then Hartley oscillator, then RC phase shift oscillators. There are many oscillators like that. Okay, so we do not have to be particularly alarmed about the fact that this is going to be which one? This is going to be going to yield a complex number. Even though it gives a complex number, but this complex number will always occurs in pair as a conjugate pair, and ultimately you will end up with a real signal. Okay, this all theories and all fine. Then again we can use it real signal as it is. No, why do we use it exponential signal? Because handling an exponential function is much easier than handling a cosine omega t or sine omega t, handling trigonometric functions. Because if you have cos omega t, then if you differentiate you will get a minus sine omega t, then again if you differentiate minus cos omega t, So it keep on oscillates between cos, sine, and again you have to take into account how many omegas comes here, all those things. On the other hand, if you take e to the t, e to the j t, or e to the t, then again if you differentiate or integrate or whatever you do, it comes as it is. So handling the complex number is very easy. So mathematically, so that is why always what we do is we will always break the real signal in terms of complex signal and do the analysis mathematically by using your complex exponential function, and once your analysis over, then you can bring back to the real signal. Suppose I have a function like this, e to the let us say j omega t plus theta. From this, how can I get the real signal? You take the real part of that, like real part of e to the j omega t plus theta is equal to cos theta, sorry, cos omega t plus theta, because e to the j theta equal to cos theta plus j sin theta. So that's the beauty of your complex exponential function. So the complex exponential function we are studying only for the ease of mathematical manipulations. It has no significance or no relevance with the physical applications. Now finally we arrived at y of t is equal to 2 times a times e to the minus t sigma t, no it is plus, sorry, plus sigma t e to the sigma t cos of omega t plus some phase angle phi. Now depending upon the location of the complex frequency, here what is the complex frequency? The sigma and omega, these two are complex frequency, because we said s equal to sigma plus j omega. Okay, so depending upon the location of the complex frequency s in the complex plane, this is not a real plane, it is a complex plane, you have different kinds of behavior as far as the time dependence of the signal is concerned. Now let us see what are the behavior of this real signal depending upon the complex exponential. Okay, so let me illustrate this here. Okay, the first case I would like to consider is let us say s equal to, we said sigma plus j omega. Let us assume sigma equal to 3 and omega equal to 0. Okay, and phi also 0. Then what will happen? Your signal 2 times a times e to the sigma t cos of omega t plus phi. The first case, this becomes 1, cos 0 equal to 1, and this is 2 times a times e to the 3t. So how do you locate this point in the complex plane? This is sigma, this is j omega, and you need to locate the point s equal to 3. Okay, so the point will be somewhere here 3. So now how the signal looks? The signal grows like this, exponentially increasing. When t equal to 0, the magnitude is 2a. So this is 2 times a times e to the 3t. In case if I put s equal to minus 3, then what happens? The s lies in the complex plane here, minus 3. Then in that case you will be having the decaying exponential like this, like that. So this is going to be 2a times e to the minus 3t. So when the real value lies in the left half of the complex plane, this is a complex plane as I said, or sometimes people will call S plane. Okay, so if the real value, that is sigma value, lies in the left half of the S plane, then it is a decaying exponential. and if it lies on the right half of this plane, it is growing exponential. It is called a growing exponential. So the complex value of s can be represented in the complex plane like this. Okay, and the x-axis representing sigma and the y-axis representing j omega, omega. Okay, so this point represents s equal to 3 and this point represents s equal to minus 3. Now, on the other hand, if I have two complex frequencies, when I say complex, it always comes in conjugate, complex conjugate. I cannot say s equal to minus 1 plus j into 2. No, this is wrong. Okay, for real systems, you cannot have the solution like this. You cannot have the complex frequency like this. As I said, it always comes with a pair minus 1 minus j2. Even if they don't give, you can find out from the given value, from given complex number. Okay, let's say I have two complex frequencies. One is minus 1 plus j2 and the other one is minus 1 minus j2. These two terms will give rise to a response which is of the form e to the minus t cos of, you can work on it, okay, you will get it up, 2t plus some phase angle phi. I don't know what this m values, you can work on it. Okay, so then how do you locate the points in the complex plane? This is x axis representing sigma and y axis representing omega, j omega. So this is minus 1 plus j2, let's say this point is 2. So this point corresponds to minus 1 plus j2 and then this is minus 2. So therefore this point corresponds to minus 1 minus j2. So in the complex plane, my complex frequencies lies in the left half of the S plane or complex plane. Now how the waveform looks like in the time domain, e power minus t, that is, it is a decaying exponential. It comes like this, e power minus t. What about cos 2t plus phi? It is a oscillations like this, cosine waveforms. Let us say this is x1 of t and let us say this is x2 of t. Therefore, e to the minus t cos omega t plus phi can be thought of as multiplication of two waveforms, x1 of t times x2 of t, multiply term by term, okay, point by point you multiply. See here the values are very high, it keep on goes and this value is correspondingly multiplied by that. So therefore after multiplication your waveform looks like this. Okay, it goes like this, right? So this is how it looks like. It is called a decaying sinusoid. Okay, so next let me consider one more example. On the other hand, if I have two conjugate complex frequencies, please remember the frequencies are complex frequency and they are conjugate complex frequencies. Okay, let us say the real part is 1 and the imaginary part is j2. So its pair is 1 minus j2. Now in this case, if you plot this guy in the complex plane, sigma j omega, this point is 1. So this point corresponds to 1 minus j2 and this point corresponds to 1 plus j2. Now if you know these two complex frequencies will yield to m times e to the t cos of 2t plus phi. It's very easy to get it, okay. So because the general form you know e to the st, and here a times e to the j phi, and substitute all the values and you will get back the this form. This already we did it. Now again, what is et? Et is a growing exponential like this, right? This is my et. And what is cos 2t? It is oscillating like this, cos function. You multiply this, the first one and the second one, it is a growing sinusoid like this. This is not a good picture, please kindly bear with me. Okay, therefore here you will get a growing sinusoid. Okay, which is growing in time, something like this. On the borderline between the left half planes and the right half plane, suppose my s value is like this, purely imaginary. Then if it is purely imaginary, doesn't mean that this j2 will come alone. Even though if it is purely imaginary, this guy always comes with his friend. Who is his friend? Conjugate of himself. He don't want other guy. Okay, so we always in our life, in practical life, we always find a person who is very like mind, who is like minded with like you. Okay, you don't want your enemy as a friend. Okay, whoever has very has the character which is very similar to you, then those kind of people you always like. Otherwise you don't like them, or otherwise you don't be with them. In the same fashion, even though it is imaginary, then also it has friend, and that friend is conjugate of himself. Therefore plus j2 and minus j2. If you try to locate these points in the s plane or complex plane, okay, when I talk about Laplace transform, then you will understand what we mean by s plane. Okay, so sigma and j omega, and this point is j2 and this point is minus j2. If you find the time function for this, then it is going to be cos of some constant m times. You just find out what the constant is. Cos of 2t plus phi. Therefore it is a purely undamped oscillations. Sorry, this is very bad. Like this. It's a complete oscillations. So that means your complex exponential signals, as we started with, a bar times e to the st, encompasses in generality a whole lot of functions of these types. So you can have growing exponential, you can have decaying exponentials, you can have real growing exponentials, you can have real decaying exponentials, you can have constant signals. A whole lot of or whole family of functions can be derived from the complex exponential. Okay, therefore it can be decaying exponential, right, where s happens to be real and negative. You can have growing exponential, where s happens to be real and positive, and the third one is if s happens to be purely imaginary, no real part, then also the s comes with his friend. Okay, in such a case it will give rise to a pure sinusoidal signal, no growing, no decaying, only sinusoidal oscillations. And the fourth one is if s happens to be negative real, okay, and complex, and in that case we had decaying oscillations. or decaying sinusoid. And the fifth case we have seen S happens to be positive real and complex, then also it is going to be growing oscillations. Okay, and the last but not the least, when S happens to be 0, then you will get a, and A is real, I mean phi is equal to 0, then it leads to a DC signal. Therefore, the whole lot of signals can be deduced from the complex exponential function. Okay, so let me summarize. So we have taken now a look at these different types of signals, like we have talked about DC signals, then the sinusoidal signals, and an exponential complex signal. As I mentioned, that even though exponential signal in general gives rise to a complex value for a real time t, but two such signals can combine and will give rise to a real function of time, because as I said, the complex function will not come alone, it always comes with its complex conjugate. So the value at any point of time t will turn out to be real. So any real signal or a real quadratic equation, if you try to decompose, or if you try to find the solution, sometimes it may be, sometimes it will be a complex solution. Okay, so we have acquainted ourselves that the meaning of the term complex frequency, it is mainly very useful, because that particular coefficient of time t in the exponential representation has the t has complex frequency, because it has a dimension of frequency, because its dimension is 1 over s. That is why we call s as the complex frequency. It does not necessarily mean that it gives rise to a periodic quantity. When I say it is a frequency, don't ask me what is a period. Since it is a signal, I mean frequency, because none of the signals are purely periodic, like growing exponential, decaying exponential, growing signals, decaying exponential, this all are, none of them are periodic. Therefore, the characteristic of all these signals that we talked about so far is that they are smooth functions of time. That means not only they don't have discontinuities, but also you can take derivatives of these signals. They continue to have to be continuous, and therefore these are characteristics of signals. So in the next lecture we will consider some examples bearing on this concept, particularly exponential signals in the complex frequencies. And also we go on to discuss some signal waveforms which are not continuous, but which are important in our further study. Okay, so let me I will consider some examples in the next class, in the next lecture. So let me stop at this point. Thank you very much.